Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first episode of Catching You, a dad and daughter's journey to with 16 years of softball. Um, this podcast, what we're going to do is just talk about the ups and downs and everything in between. With Lacey's journey from 5 years old rec ball to now being a junior in college. We're going to tell some stories, throughout the journey. We'll have an agenda, but we're going to keep it as organic as possible, right? What the purpose of this podcast is we want to help upcoming softball girls and their dads navigate through each phase of what softball is all about, right? Because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, right? It's Lace. There's going to be some good times and there's going to be some pretty tough times mentally and physically. So go ahead and maybe you can jump in here and talk about a little bit what this podcast is going to be all about.
So it's not only going to be for just softball and their dads navigating like travel ball and rec ball, but I think our stories can apply to other parent athlete dynamics.
Mhm.
Recruiting processes can be different for a lot of other sports, but I think youth sports, as we're growing up, we have a lot in common.
Mhm.
So we want it to be relatable and informational for those parent athlete dynamics. And we're going to be talking about also the mental health aspect of the parent and the athlete. So we're getting a lot into student athlete mental health recently in the last few years, but um, I've never really heard the parent perspective. So
Right, great point. Because we're gonna in future episodes we're gonna talk about my challenges, right? Because I did have challenges, because there's parents out there that sometimes they're hard nosed and they're unwilling to bend, right? And that could affect their daughter's experience, right? So, and I've been through it a lot, right? I've coached high school sports for 30 years. I've seen the travel ball circuit in basketball. I've seen the travel ball circuit in both baseball and softball. So I've seen it all, right? So yeah, we're gonna get into not only the mental health of parents, but a big part is the mental health of the athlete as well. Um, but we're gonna talk about the good times too. We're not It's just not gonna be, you know, drab and, tell about all these, horrible stories about softball. There were some great times and we're gonna get into that as well. Speaking of great times, um, let's pivot to kind of the beginnings, Lace, the rec ball when you were 5 years old. I don't know how much you remember,
not much.
when you were when you were 5 years old. We have, really great memories of 5 years old, especially, going to Big 5, right? And picking out your pink, cleats and we had to match it, right? We picked out a pink helmet as well. And then, just the team pictures, the 5-year-olds running around trying to gather you guys all around to sit still and take a picture. That's and then your outfit, right? I think your first was Misfits. It was green. Was it
It was like a light teal.
like a light teal? Yeah, and just the cuteness of everybody. And we'll get into that later. How many of those girls you're still friends with, and but can you touch upon your experience if you can remember your kind of your first teams and maybe the nicknames and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I don't remember much when I was 5, but I do remember getting into the more as I got older. So, like, the first team was the Misfits. I don't really remember much from that team. That was my first team, and that was pretty much just hitting the ball off the tee and running as fast as you can to first base.
Right.
But the other teams, there was the Diamond Queens, which was the next one, which is, like, the green team,
Yep.
and I remember having so much fun on that team, and there was, like, you get MVP after the game. There's all these snack bags that you would get. Um, that's when I started playing with a lot of the girls I'm still friends with today
Mhm.
or, that I played high school with. Um, and then there was the Pumas, which I wasn't the biggest fan of that
Nope.
team because we were a bright orange, which is, like, not my favorite color in the world, but I was fine. But I specifically remember not being able to pick out my nickname and not being able to pick my number. So the 2 teams before that, I was number 12, and I just love number 12. I just wanna be number 12 for the rest of my life.
Right.
And then he gave me number 7, and I couldn't change it, and it just said ham on the back. So I was just it just was it didn't seem fun in that aspect. I mean, obviously, I was still playing with some friends, but it wasn't the same. But then, I think next was Sweet Heat,
Yeah.
and that's when I think my mom started to get involved a little bit more. So she loved being creative with names and nicknames and just having fun, crazy socks. So she was all involved in that, and I think, um, that really started, like, my perspective on, like, just having fun, but also being competitive because she's a very competitive person,
She is? No way.
if you couldn't tell. But
Yeah, no, I agree, and, just some funny stories with her is, I think she was an assistant or team mom, and they had her coach first base. Like,
Mhm.
she knew nothing about baseball, right? I think she played until she was, maybe in 6th grade or something like that back in the day, but she was coaching first, and her main responsibility is when you guys, like, got a hit or you guys walked, and she would just cheer and scream at the top of her lungs, "Let's go, let's go, let's go." So that was pretty cool to watch her get involved and get you guys going.
Yeah, um, and then next was Con Candy Crushers, which
Yeah, my favorite name.
my mom definitely came up with that,
Yep.
and we were bright pink, and I think that team I played with a lot of still my friends from growing up on the other teams.
Mhm.
Um, but that's when I think my mom was the head coach, and she was in charge of, like, picking the girls for the team and, um, kinda helping with practice, but then Coach Al came into the picture,
Right.
so he was a lot involved, but that was probably the most fun I've had on a team for sure because I had my friends, I had my mom who was, like, coaching third base and getting us all hyped when we were doing really well and
Yep.
really encouraging us when we were doing bad.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, it's still rec ball, so some girls are still getting used to playing softball and getting into the swing of it, but, like, she was very encouraging, but also competitive at the same time, and I think we went all the way to the championship that year.
We won it.
Did we?
Yeah, we won the whole thing.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, your mom is 1-0 as far as a head coach.
Okay, well,
Yeah. No, that was a fun year because that's when you started getting, I think I think, you're pitching wise, I think you were kinda coming into your own a little bit. You're like, "Hey, maybe this is something I wanna do." And then some of the girls on the team, to this day, you wouldn't know it then, but, you actually played against them, right? In college, and not only in high school, but you pitched against, Lacie, right? Who, played at Fresno State, and now she's, moving on to somewhere else, and, so it's just pretty cool that at 6, 7, 8 years old, you're playing with these girls that you end up eventually playing against in college. That's really cool. Um, my the greatest, the what I appreciated most or what made me laugh the most or not laugh or just smile, as a father is watching you print out the cheers for your teams. Because the first couple games it was pretty quiet and it was like the same cheer over and over again. So
yeah.
you're like, "Screw this. I'm gonna make sure that they know at least 4 or 5 of them." And, um, so just watching you, stay up late at night to, you know, put those on paper and then print those out, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think cheering was one of my favorite aspects of rec ball, um, and they were just so creative, and
Mhm.
some of them didn't really make sense, but they were just catchy, so we just did whatever we could to cheer on our teammates, but I think that was my start of, I think, being, like, a big team player because, obviously, when I grew older and started going into travel ball, pitchers don't usually hit unless
Right.
you're, I mean, one of the better hitters on your team, but, I mean, I was okay, so they're like, "Nope, you're just sticking to pitching." But so that means I couldn't really participate, offensively, and so my way of participating offensively is cheering,
Yep.
and, I mean, that's just who I am, and people can harp on that, but I've just that's how I've been since I was 8 years old.
Oh, yeah, and I've told the story all the time. I really appreciate that you do that because, there's times where I've seen you struggle, right? Even, in high school and travel ball, and you might take a second to sit down on the bench and just kinda gather yourself and say, "Wow, that was not very good," or, "I didn't do very well." But then you're just right back up on the fence, in the on the corner of the fence there, one of the first girls cheering, right? And there's some girls that don't. They're just like, "This is not for me. I don't do it." But for you, this is what I appreciated most about you is when even when things are down, you're still there to support your teammates, right? Um, even if you're a PO, right? If you're a pitcher only, your mindset was, "Well, I this is how I can contribute to the team," and I really appreciated that about you. Let's get into the All-Stars, and that's kinda the launching pad to kinda where you are now, right? So, as I think you were 7 years old, maybe 6, in your first All-Star experience. Do you remember the team name? Um, and then kinda describe what that first experience of All-Stars was for you.
I Damage Incorporated
Uh-huh.
was what it was called after Metallica.
Yeah, after a song, yeah, Metallica song.
Okay, and then, one of my best friends in the softball world, her dad was a coach,
Mhm.
and I just remember that team just being all about having fun. Like, we would win some, we would lose some, but at the end of the day, like, we were just going all out and just having fun at the fields. Um, I mean, yeah, it wasn't much of winning. Like, he was competitive, but we were just kinda coming into our own softball-wise. Like, we didn't know if we were gonna be good or not. Some girls loved softball, some I don't know if they still do, but, um, it was just a beginner year. I feel
Yeah.
like there wasn't much competition. We were just kinda just playing to play, which
Right, there
was
was the A and B team, right? The A team was I think their uniforms were black and ours were teal, I guess, right?
mhm,
Yeah, and what I liked about that team was, Coach Al was I think he was the head coach, right?
mhm,
Um, and he had his daughter Sophia was on the team, and some head coaches will, what they'll put their daughter, batting first or and playing
mhm,
shortstop, but he wasn't that type of guy. He was awesome. He was just like, my daughter's not the best, but I'm gonna have her, participate and play, and um, but he tried to put the best team out there, but he also was there to, make sure that you guys were having fun and stuff. Yeah, Damage Incorporated and Metallica, that was, one of the best that's one of the best, names that you could I don't know if you remember, David Loudermilk? Is that how you say it? Yeah, one before, I think it was Simi Valley game, he drove the car up, I think it was left field fence. He opened the door and he'd play the Damage Incorporated song right before you guys warm up. You probably don't remember that because you were 6 and 7 years old, but
yeah.
and then my other memory is, I don't know, and you probably remember, but, when I think you were playing catcher every once in a while, and you had the red catcher's gear,
Yeah.
you know,
I I wasn't the biggest fan of catching, but sometimes I had to do it, and I remember throwing a girl out at third my first game catching,
yeah.
and kinda thinking to myself, like, "Maybe I could do this, maybe this is my thing," but I don't think I loved it enough. I don't think I
Yeah.
did.
Well, it's probably because I was throwing softballs at your mask just so
Well,
you wouldn't
yeah.
get wet.
Yeah, nowadays, it's different where they're a little softer on the catchers, but
Yeah. Hey,
not
do you
for
remember
me.
that? I had you squat down like you were catching the ball, and I was throwing softballs at your mask just so you get used to it.
I probably blocked it out on purpose, so I don't remember, but I
Probably.
don't probably.
Um, yeah, so that was after Sweet Heat, right? So that was when you're just starting to pitch. Yeah, just a little story about Sweet Heat. One of the things that I felt bad when because you just started pitching with Coach Katie and you're learning how to throw a changeup and, throwing a changeup at, 7 years old. That's so funny. but, we talked about the ups and downs and everything in between. The downs of that, we were in the playoffs, and I think you're limited to a certain number of pitches, so you had to go in there with, like, bases loaded, and you walked, like, 2 runs in, and all the parents were getting all pissed off, and you were crying. I don't think you were crying when you were out there, but when you came off, you were just bawling your head off, and it's like, it's like that's when it's like, "Okay, this is like"
She cares.
cares, like, she doesn't wanna lose, which is awesome on one hand, but on the other hand, I just felt so bad. It's like, I don't know if, you know, people that age should be put through that type of stress, right? Um
Yeah, I maybe that was, like, my first time dealing with, like, pressure,
mhm,
but at the same time, it's not I'm 7 years old, like, why are you getting so mad at me? I just started pitching, like, just because I wanted to, and now I'm supposed to be the best pitcher,
yeah.
at 7 years old, like, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, obviously, it didn't affect you because then next year you played at Cotton Cast Crushers, you were pitching a lot, you were doing well, you're doing well in your lessons. After Cotton Crushers, then you got selected to the A team All-Stars. Can you touch upon your experience with that? That was pretty fun too as well, but
Yeah,
touch on it. Go ahead and talk about that.
this was black magic.
Mhm,
This was definitely the more competitive side of softball that I've seen, with Coach Chris,
mhm,
and, um, he did not wanna lose. He was all about winning, um, and that's when I got introduced to, like, "If you guys win, we can go do something fun, or we can go get snow cones," or something like that,
right,
and now we have incentive to win,
right.
um, when before it was just like, "Oh, like, you did a great job, let's go get some ice cream," but, like, if we lost, no ice cream. Nothing. I have a specific picture in my head of my whole team, um, wearing these fake mustaches
Yeah,
after a tournament. I think we won,
yeah,
and, Coach Chris allowed us to wear the fake mustaches, and I think it was because we won the game, but, like, I just remember all of us wanted to wear them so badly. I don't know why we wanted to, but he was like, If you win, you can wear them." And I think we played our best game, and I don't
yeah,
it
that
was
was a
just
great picture. Great
yeah,
picture. Because you look at that picture and there's several D1 players on that team, by the way,
it
if
was
you look
about
at it
yeah,
if you look at
about
it
5 or
again.
6.
Yeah,
Um,
um, yeah, so, did you did you ever bring your bathing suit to, when we stayed at a hotel when we traveled?
for All-Stars,
Yes.
I don't think I was allowed to.
Yes. Right,
Um,
that's when it got serious. Okay, you are not swimming, you are not
yeah.
going into the pool, and I remember parents just being because some of the parents didn't get it, right? There's
Mhm.
some parents that got it, "Hey, this is we're competitive, this is all-stars, we're trying to win." But there are some parents who are still kind of yes, it's rec ball, but and so they were just like, "Well, why not? Why can't they swim?" And they would get so upset at Chris, and we were just like, "No, no swimming," and you were like, "Okay, wait, whatever, no big deal."
I didn't really care, like, I didn't really care to swim. I mean, I think his perspective was that it was exhausting.
Mhm,
It tired us out, and if we were tired the next day, then we won't play at our best.
right.
So, we never did that. I don't know if the soda thing was travel ball or was it All-Stars?
I think it was all-stars.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
weren't allowed to
it
drink soda.
mhm,
We had to drink water strictly,
mhm,
and I mean, I think I got it, like, right away because I'm like, "Guys, no, like, we're not supposed to drink that, like,
yeah,
get water." So
yeah.
I was that teammate, but
Yeah, you're kind of the mom of the team, right?
yeah,
Um, yeah, and that was a good year. I think we only lost 3 games, right?
yeah,
And there was that one super competitive game, I don't know if you remember in Corona where you got, like, all tournament and, yeah, I remember it was against Kevin Nelson's,
mhm,
daughter, but, that was fun. It was on Father's Day, right? I think it was
yeah.
on Father's Day. But, do you remember, like, mom decorating the car and stuff?
Mhm.
Yeah,
With all my team names on there, some cheers.
uh-huh.
I don't know if they still do that. I mean, I've seen a few, but it was definitely a big thing when I was in All Stars for sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so just again, just to kind of recap, we're gonna be talking about the ups and downs. Yes, we're talking about just the beginning of rec ball. And, in future episodes, we're gonna get into, getting into travel ball and again, the ups and downs and everything between with travel ball. We'll get into high school. We have a ton of episodes coming up, so stay with us. We'd appreciate you to, subscribe and 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 share it with other people if you feel like this is, um, you know, it's good, good content for you guys to listen to. Stick around for other episodes and we'll see you guys soon. Ace, you got any parting words?
Not really. I just know, like, we're gonna get into the competitive side, which is good to talk about, but also hard to talk
Right. I
about.
mean,
Right.
yeah, because it really has developed who you are, right?
Mhm.
As a person because you've gone through a lot. And I'm sure many other girls out there that are in your situation have gone through a lot. Some are still playing, some are not, right? And that's kind of why we're here. We want to talk to those young girls and those fathers that are just starting out. That there's a different way. There's another way to help them navigate through the ups and downs, right? Of of softball and getting through those times, right? You definitely want to celebrate the good times, but you also need to navigate through the bad times, right? All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next show. Take care, Lace. I love you. Bye, everybody.
So